think I've broken the game by creating this build, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys this broken monstrosity that I've created. Currently, I'm pushing 300 plus corruption maps with ease, clearing through all the content with very minimal chance of ever dying. As you can see, the survivability on this build is insane. I've sacrificed some damage for survivability, but the potential of this build can scale much higher. I have done T4, T4 Temporal Sanctum, T4 Soulforge. I can do all forms of in-game content with this build, and I am still missing a massive amount of legendary potential. So for those of you that are in the Traders Guild, you could probably take this build to a whole nother level. For me, I'm gonna farm all this gear on Circle of Fortune and really see how high I can push this without ever buying another piece from another player. But as of right now, I'm pushing 330, 340 plus with relative ease, clearing all T4 content. That's what I'm gonna show you guys here. This is a 300 plus shade of Orbis, and I'm sitting like well above 5k ward for the majority of the fight. The DPS on this build is insanely good. However, I did have to sacrifice the crit from Peak of the Mountain, so I'm no longer using Eye of Green. So I'm using mostly elemental damage, but as you see, the damage is still really good for bossing. Alright, so now that you guys have seen enough gameplay, I'm gonna go ahead and hop into showing you the actual build. What is going on, you filthy last Epoch players? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you my new Spellblade build. We are generating a massive amount of ward on hit, as well as ward per second. We're sacrificing our HP to go into a full ward build. This gives us a lot more survivability, but we have less crit. So the pros of this build is that we have a much more insane survivability to make us immortal as compared to the glass cannon crit build that I was previously running. So this is going to allow us to scale into much higher corruption. We just need to get more LP with this build, so it makes it this build's much more gear dependent. That being said, if you can get the gear, is insanely strong and insanely fun. Let's go ahead and hop into it. Alright, so there are a few changes to the skills. I'll go ahead and show that to you guys. Our mana strike is just mostly for generators critical mana. We're also using Rage Shot for a small amount of additional damage. Getting mana gain from mana drain, attack speed, right? For Shatter Strike, we are spec'd into freeze rate multiplier and hit damage, multiplicative hit damage versus frozen enemies for that burst once they're frozen. Cold Steel, critical multiplier per sword. We only have 1 point in whiteout. I used to have 2, but I took the other point out as I just didn't like the insane mana cost of this skill. Yeah, I only want 1 point in that. Breath of the Cold, Shatter Strike, that's maxed out because that's multiplicative damage in area. Then we have Ice Blink, 25% attack speed. Obviously, we want to max that out. If I have more points, when I get more points into Shatter Strike with my offhand, I will put them into Glacial Smash for the multiplicative versus frozen. Alright, and then Flame Ward. We are actually getting insane amount of skill points into Flame Ward from our offhand. We have Prismatic Buffer, Barrier, less LE damage, less hit damage, extra ward. And then this is really good Desperate Defense because our HP is always very low, so we're getting extra ward based on that. And then casting Flame Ward when stunned, additional charges, and then duration and mana efficiency. For our enchant weapon, max cold damage, max melee cold damage, active duration, we're recasting, getting increased melee elemental damage and negative mana cost, more missing or more elemental damage based on missing mana, and then melee attack speed. We have more points in enchant weapon, it would go into celerity for more attack speed. And then our surge is doing a massive amount more damage as we spec more into glacial assault and the freeze rate multiplier. As you see, we're going for mostly freeze. And this conversion from lightning is also going to affect the electro pulse and stormbringer. And then this zigzag motion is multiplicative, and then it's gonna scale off cold damage because of the lightning to cold damage modifier. So we're getting extra multiplicative damage from the lightning, which is converted to cold, as well as freeze rate multiplier and cold damage as a cold skill. And then over here, we're also gaining additional damage per static charge, which, so the longer, once I stack up to 100 charges, I'm going to have more multiplicative lightning damage based on these static charges. Then we're getting the invulnerability while surging and more damage per movement speed, because we are moving pretty fast with this surge skill. We have a lot of movement speed built into our characters, so especially with, so if you use a potion to gain ward gain on potion use, our extinguish actually gives us increased attack speed and movement speed after we use a potion. So that pairs very well once you get that movement speed buff going into surge, because you're going to have extra movement speed, which means you're going to have extra multiplicative damage. So then we also have last steps of the living, which is giving us dex and movement speed. We're sacrificing HP, the same as our extinguish, sacrificing HP for ward per second. Our boots are giving us freeze rate multiplier, so we have an insane amount more freeze rate multiplier with these boots to pair very well with our shatter strike. So that is going to give us that extra multiplicative damage for versus frozen targets that we want. We are getting chilled, but it's fine, because if we ever get chilled and we need to run, we have ailment cleanse on our belt, and then we have increased movement speed. This build has a lot of synergy, and it's very gear specific. It does not work if you don't have the setup. Once you have the setup, it's so good, because our, like, not only our boots and our helmet giving us ward per second for getting armor, our helmet is giving us ward per second for uncapped necrotic res. So one thing that I'm currently missing is a best in slot bone amulet to have extra necrotic res with these exact affixes, because I'll get extra freeze rate here, I'll get extra critical strike multiplier, chance to shock, necrotic res. I have it, like, these are all great like affixes, prefixes, suffixes, but I am missing the implicit of necrotic res that bone amulet comes with. So you, that's the only thing. But it would pair very good with the Bone Climber, because the more necrotic res, then the more ward per second. So it's really important that you have the suffix with necrotic res. That's really important. And then stacking necrotic res is something I'm going to do after I get more resistances from other places. But I'm also getting main stat from this helmet, Dex Int, because our Shatter Strike is going to scale off Dex Int. So this setup is very good for the Spellblade specifically. I don't think it would work with any of the other mages as well as it would Spellblade. But yeah, we have Crystal Sword. We had to swap back to Crystal Sword because we don't have as much crit with this build, because we're not using Peak of the Mountain. So we want the higher base elemental damage. We're getting melee crit on both swords, extra cold damage, melee attack speed, bleed, shock, stun, cold damage, ignite, bleed, shock. We have a red ring, and then this is giving us more resistances, more attributes, more health regen, more dodge, more mana, and then 10% less damage taken if you have at least 180 total attributes. So my goal is to get to 180 attributes. I need another one of these rings, but it's really rare, so we're just gonna have to farm them. More crit, LE damage, physical res, crit strike avoidance, maxing out our crit strike avoidance. And then our gloves is also giving us, it's an experimental glove. We're losing health and we're gaining warp per second, and we're getting dex int, both main stats, health, and critical strike avoidance. That is the setup. Now this relic is only really placeholder. It's placeholder until I get like a 2 or 3 LP bloody nib, but I'm in Circle of Fortune on this character, so because I'm in the Circle of Fortune, it's a little harder to really get some of those higher LP items. So I'm just gonna have to keep farming. But as for right now, this is a placeholder. It's giving me +4 to Flame Ward, which is what we would really want. Like either you want +4 to Flame Ward or you want +4 to Surge. And you could get that on a Knowledge of an Erased Mage, and that's placeholder. But best in slot would be +4 on a Bloody Nib. The Bloody Nib would be much better if you can get that stat rolled onto. But either way, we're still getting +1 to mage skills, and we're getting damage dealt to mana before health. So that's really good. And then we're getting a little bit of endurance. Endurance doesn't really matter because we have so much ward. And then 30% of mana spent gained as ward as an implicit. So yeah, this setup is very specific. Our idols are just ward on hit, and then we're stacking HP and then resistances. Stacking resistances, HP, and ward on hit. It's all for survivability, because this build is literally immortality. That's our one true goal, is to just never die. 62% movement speed, 52% movement speed. We gain more movement speed, 100% movement speed once we use a potion. Keep that in mind. You gain 100% movement speed, and then you surge. You're gonna do more damage. You're gonna do the most damage that you can with surge, and it's gonna one-shot most enemies. Okay. Yeah, that is like, those are my skills. That's my here. You can see my stats here. Melee crit chance it's pretty high. Crit strike multiplier is pretty high, 307%. Like, crit strike multiplier is one of the most important stats. For our defense, crit strike avoidance is maxed out. Endurance, you know what I mean? Armor is at 19%, and it's mostly because of these two items. Like, it's a little difficult to stack armor with this setup, but you definitely can. The more LP you get, you want to start adding armor, HP, it maybe like enchant weapon on a helmet. But as of right now, with this current build, I am clearing through 350 corruption with ease, and the more LP I get with this setup, guaranteed I can push this to 1,000 like easily. If I was to swap to traders faction, which I am on my other character, but on this character, like, I know it's a lot faster doing that faction, but I want to do it this way through Circle of Fortune because it's more fun. But I'm definitely going to give you guys an update once I'm above 500 corruption. That's my goal this week. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comment section below. Peace and love.